I'm David from Lavica Photography, and today we find ourselves back in the bellows of Tempe camera. We're doing something a little different today, a user request. It's the Olympus OMD EM1. God, these names are so complicated. And we're going to compare it against the A6000. And this is twice the price, but is it actually twice as nice? We're going to explore this today and find out. Okay, so we got the Olympus over here. It's a mirrorless camera, although it looks like an SLR, and you know, it's very similar in size to both of these cameras. It has a taller grip, definitely very comfortable. It's a very solid feeling camera. And one thing it does have is a nice pop-out screen similar to the A6000. It doesn't do full articulation, but it seems to be pretty nice. And it has been a long time since I've used an Olympus, a really long time. But one of the things that drives me, not really crazy, but I just wish that they would push on the mirrorless market, and this is the reason why I'm in love with the A6000, is the sensor size between the two. This is an APS-C size sensor, so this is the largest sensor that you can get in a mirrorless mount. This is a 16 megapixel true 4/3 half sensor, and what this means is that you get half the size of the sensor, which means double the depth of field. Everything still meters the same, the light's all the same, the lenses are nice and small, but you get double the depth of field. So in order to get a really shallow depth of field with this camera, you pretty much have to have an f1.2 lens. That doesn't really excite me about it, but in studio photography, these are actually very handy because of that double the depth of field. If you put an f2 lens on here, that means it's the equivalent of f4. So that means if you're shooting at f8, that's going to be the equivalent of f16. If you're doing macro work, that's a huge benefit, especially in the studio, because then you can get everything in focus in one shot. And that's the reason why I like this camera, is because we use a full frame in the studio, but we use this one for all of our jewelry and smaller product that really needs an extended depth of field. But we're going to take a really close look at this. One thing that this does have, just so you know the difference between the two, they both have electronic viewfinders. This one is actually a very bright, clean viewfinder. It's very similar to those that you'd find on the A7, the A7 II, the A7R, the bigger cameras of Sony's mirrorless line. And it's really a very high quality, it doesn't hurt your eyes to look through it, very nice. And it has a standard hot shoe on the top, although again this one is painted but not in the rails, which you guys know I have an issue with. And it has your standard modes. One thing that this does have that this doesn't have is 5-axis image stabilization. But this one is just extremely comfortable, very ergonomic. The autofocus is very quick. I don't think it's as fast as the A6000 by any means. But if you notice the back of the cameras, and let me turn this one on here really quick, just the size of the screen is about the same as well. And you know, I went through the menus earlier, and they seem to have almost the exact same functions. One thing that this camera does that I really like over this camera is the flash sync speed. This stops at 160. This is double that at 320. The shutter is open on the entire frame at 320th of a second. That's a big deal to boost your creativity. So you're getting a lot of pro features in a very small body, whereas this one has a lot of really cool features, but it's still missing a few things. Now let me go over here to the side, and let me try to figure out how to get these doors open here. So on the side of this camera, we have a microphone port, and that's a must. On the A6000, we don't. We have to use the hot shoe. And on this one, we have a USB video out and the HDMI out. so you can record to an external device that way. And that I like, the fact that you have your own microphone port. The only problem is the video quality from this is nowhere as good as this. It has a tendency to over sharpen and it lacks in detail. It has a little too high of a compression rate. But outside of that, as far as speed goes, now video quality wise, I mean it does okay. It's not like, you know, you get this camera and you're going to be stuck, but this one does do better video quality. Audio quality on this one, you can use external mics, so that makes life a lot easier. Although we do use external mics on this, we're just stuck with a hot shoe. Image quality as far as noise goes. Now I'm going to do a quick test in the lab, but just judging from what I was playing with earlier, it seems like noise-wise they are about the same. I don't really see a huge difference. In RAW, this actually does a little bit better with the actual amount of noise. But again, you're only talking 16 megapixel versus 24. In JPEG mode, they're about equal as far as on-camera noise reduction goes. So really quick, let's bounce through the menu system and see what that looks like. Bracketing, HDR, multi-exposure, time-lapse. This does do on-camera time-lapse. The Sony a6000 does not. Okay, and let me see here. Let's blow through this really quick. The settings, we can turn on AF mode, and then the different AF modes. We have continuous in movie mode, and then still picture we have single shot AF and manual focus AF, which is really strange because they should have continuous AF for still picture. Oh, they do. Okay, never mind. It just doesn't say it in there. See, I can't judge too quick because I literally have only spent about 20 minutes with this camera. Okay, so pretty much the stuff that we're looking for. Although this is weird. The focus ring will allow you to change direction. That's different. I guess that's useful. And manual focus assist, which is nice. That's just an illuminator. Or actually, manual focus assist is going to be a magnification, I'm sure. Yeah. And peaking. This has focus peaking as well. And why is this not on? So let's turn that on. You guys know I'm a huge fan of focus peaking. Love it, love it, love it. Alright, so we got that on. And to be honest with you, this is the first time I'm going through this menu, and it is very easy to navigate. It looks like I have all the settings that I want. And it looks like we can change some of the buttons around. 10 frames per second on this camera, which is very close to the a6000. The a6000 is 11.5. And lens IS priority, release time normal. Okay, so what do we have under the custom? Now I love the fact that we have 320th of a sync. That is awesome. Alright, and then a slow limit. Excellent flash control. Okay, so let's see what we got here. Wi-Fi settings, so this does have Wi-Fi as well. That means that both cameras have Wi-Fi. And that looks like that's about it. So very easy to control as far as that goes. Now, the other thing that this does have is this has the eye switch where you move your eye towards the viewfinder and the back screen comes off. And then as you move away, it comes back on. Now, battery-wise, let me turn this off here. Let's take a look at their battery. This is a 1220 mAh, so slightly higher rating than the a6000 at 1050 mAh. But both cameras you can get up to 1950 in aftermarket batteries, which is kind of nice. And then we have, for button-wise, we have aperture priority, and then P mode, shutter mode, manual, video. I don't know what that is. That's different. We have scene, artistic modes, completely auto. Let's see what this is, because I don't know what that is. Oh, it's goofy framing mode. Okay, well that is kind of stupid. And then the art mode allows you to do a toying effect, pinhole effect, black and white. Basically, it looks like your on-camera version of Instagram, which is bleh. But we're going to just shoot this on good old manual because, you know, that's where I like it, as manual. Okay, so menu-wise, if you compare the A6000 to the same menu, this is a lot more drawn out. You have 7 different layers underneath each different section. Now the camera controls are going to be under these two. This is going to be your Wi-Fi area. This is going to be your download applications to add to the camera. And then over here is going to be your play mode. Alright, so I'm having too much fun with this because this flash is made for a Nikon, and it's a Yongnuo 560 Mark III, and it's a very basic flash. It has wireless controls that work with the Yongnuo RF603s, and it is liking this camera. I can't believe it. These guys are talking to each other and it's shooting like crazy. It's absolutely beautiful because I can get 400th of a second on this camera. And let me go up to a little higher power here because I'm only at 8. Let me go to 2. And let me just show you this because I am just tickled by this. I'm like, holy crap, this is the coolest thing ever. Okay, so here's our shot. The shot itself is nothing exciting by any means, but the fact that we have 0 shutter shadow and we're at 400th of a second, which is above their sync rating, and it's shooting just fine. Now 400th is as high as you can go. Any higher than that and we start to get the shadowing. This is a big deal for me right here. Love that. On this camera, we can go to 200th of a second, past the 160 mark, but only to 200 with a non-Sony flash. And I imagine this may be the same way. If you use an Olympus flash, it may cut off at 320. I'm not sure. I haven't actually used one. But you know, usually when you use the brand name flash that goes with the camera, that's when you get all the functionality, and that's also where they cut you off as far as sync speed goes, or if it's a high-speed sync, then we get full capability. Now, one thing I didn't mention before is this one is 4,000th of a second maximum shutter, whereas this one is 8,000th of a second maximum shutter. So, you know, this is a very surprising little camera right here. So far, I like the fact that it can do what it can do. So let's go outside and play with it. I'm here with Carissa from Tempe Camera.
Hello.
And she has graciously, even though she's still sleepy, and Tempe Camera just opened, we drug her outside. I'm going to do a quick portrait with her because I'm really excited about the sync speed of this thing. And it's at 400th of a second. That means that we're actually going to be able to shoot some outdoor flashing, full power with the camera wide open. We'll try zooming in just a touch. We're going to give her kind of a halo effect here. There we go. That is just sweet. The fact that you can sync at 400th of a second is amazing. We'll go to F9 here. And we're not looking at the actual quality of this lens. I'm not too concerned with that. I'm more concerned with the camera itself. So we're going to crank this up to F9. And then bring our shutter speed down appropriately. The shutter on this is so quiet. It's just, all it is this little tiny, just that, it's really cool. Okay, now let me go to the menu button here, and let me go up to 1600, and then I got to crank up this shutter speed to 3200. Actually, on the other one we shot at 4000. Just mind-blowingly fast. And just so you guys know, wait for that to pass. Okay, just so you guys know, the entire time that we've been shooting this camera, or talking about this camera, we've left it on. And so far, the battery life seems to be pretty good. We're still at 2/3 of a battery. Okay, now both of these cameras have onboard mics. We'll compare the quality of that in the studio. We won't know what that is until we're done with that. But Allison, go ahead and walk backwards. Let me just get some footage of you here. Alright, now am I able to manually adjust anything? Ooh, I am not. Okay, so this is a bummer. Mics. We'll compare the quality of that in the studio. We won't know what that is until we're done with that. But Allison, go ahead and walk backwards. Let me just get some footage of you here. Alright, now am I able to manually adjust anything? Ooh, I am not. Okay, so this is a bummer. Okay, so one issue that I did find while recording video is that this body will not allow you to manually adjust like this does. So we cannot change the shutter speed or the f-stop while we're recording. At least I couldn't right there. I'm trying it again. No, I'm locked out. So there you have it. We'll see what the results in the lab look like, but overall I really do like this. But for half the price, you can't go wrong with this. Really quick, I just wanted to show you guys the photo I took of Carissa outside. And I was really excited about this because I was able to do a higher shutter speed. Now I shot this at 400th of a second at f10. Now even though the camera was on the flash, and that's not usually what I like to do, it did allow me to stop down the sun a little bit, so it makes for more of an interesting portrait, kind of a halo effect. Okay, really quick. I'm just going to burn through these. This is all the way open at ISO 200, and this is JPEG off the camera. And JPEG on this camera is really disappointing. Very muddled, flat, overly compressed, and this was on the high setting. And you know, it loses so much information. So let me skip ahead here. And this is at 1600, and at ISO 1600 you can see we just lost all detail, you know, information in the walls. Now let me show you this really quick. Alright, so this is shot with RAW, and over here this side is the Olympus and this side is the Sony, the a6000. So if we zoom in and look at the trees, you know, the Sony does actually a very decent job of in-camera JPEGs. They get a little soft, but you know, overall it's pretty good. Now over here, this is a RAW file that I converted to a JPEG off of the Olympus. And if you look at the detail in the bush here, they pretty much look identical. The Sony is a little less contrasty. Right here we've got some kind of blur ghosting going on. You know, I don't know really what you would call it, but it's, you know, very minor. Still looks okay. So what I wanted to show you was this right here. So this is the same photo shot with JPEG on the camera, and let's go to that same area. And look at how muddled that got. And that's just terrible. So realistically, I would never shoot JPEG on this camera. I would only shoot in RAW and convert it, because that quality is just terrible. But anyway, let's move on. Overall, ergonomically, yeah, I seem to like this camera. The fact that, you know, Olympus is not known for making video cameras, so they're not going to have the greatest video functionality in the world, and I was expecting that. I wasn't really thinking that I would find anything else more out of that, but photography-wise, it seems to be really good. Screen-wise, on the back, they feel about the same. I didn't even show you this earlier. I talked about this screen popping out, and they both have the same amount of movement, but let me show you here. And it does seem like the Sony is slightly brighter, but it seems like the Olympus is more of a refined, higher dot pitch screen, but I have to verify that. I'm not really sure. It just feels that way. Overall, you know, weight-wise, when it comes to the actual camera body, the Olympus does weigh a little bit more. And there's a little bit more to it. It's very technical, but it's got a very solid feeling to it. Now, the other thing too, I keep talking about how this is twice the price of the A6000. This is also a weather-sealed body, which makes it, you know, kind of nice. And I talked about, in our last video, about the Pentax K3. And video-wise, they're kind of about the same because Pentax isn't known for doing video either. But this camera, because of that sync speed, to me, as a professional photographer, this is a lot more enticing than I thought it would be. Realistically, would I put the A6000 down for it? Well, it's just the sensor size. I have an issue with that. I think that this would make an excellent studio camera doing product photography. But outside of that, I don't know how much more fun I would have with that because I can't get the shallow depth of field that I want. But it is an excellent camera. And, you know, from what I've seen so far, the image quality does seem to be really good. You're going to have to refer to the studio results for that. But anyway, I hope you guys like this review. If you do, give it a thumbs up, leave a comment. Otherwise, I'll talk to you guys later.